Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am very honored to present my presentation here today before you, before such high politicians, former prime ministers, ambassadors, professors, and it is my special pleasure to represent my speech before students, because I have taught plant genetics in Agricultural University of Tirana in Albania for 27 years. This is the reason. At the beginning, I would like to thank very much Director General of ICD, Dr. Mark Donfrade, who kindly invited me to participate in this international meeting, and it is the third time for me. Now, my subject is the challenges of food security in the context of the world crisis. You know that different branches of economy are developing in parallel with each other, and their influence to each other, the situation influence to each other, they are interconnected, and in this context, in my introduction part, I have summarized some of general, according to my opinion, the most important ideas and the conclusions that have arrived. Okay. Current situation in the world today is extremely complex, with dynamics of multidimensional events accompanied by a growing uncertainty. It is characterized by wars, economic and financial crises, climate changes, pandemics, migration and depopulation of many countries, hunger, and other components. Above all, the threat to peace and democracy is growing significantly. Many of the fundamental achievements of the post-World War II have been called into questions. Recently, Russia's war in Ukraine is showing us that world peace and democracy are still fragile, and threat to it is serious and real. This war have brought to us the ghost of the Second World War closer than ever. As a consequence of this war, a part of the agriculture production in the fields and in the warehouse has been destroyed, damaged. Another part of the grains and food cannot be exported or sent to destinations. And the worst thing is the future of production. Production of grains and other food crops has been damaged seriously and is being threatened more and more. This threatening situation is creating a domino effect in the economy of European countries and beyond, worsening the current crisis, increase the basic of food prices, increase of the energy price of agricultural inputs, increase of number of the hungry people in the world. Currently, seeing that the world has entered the phase of a permanent and multidimensional crisis. Its components are interconnected and interdependent with each other. Therefore, the response to it will be continuous, complex, and coordinated. Agriculture and food are vital sectors without which human society cannot exist. The economic dimensions of agriculture has a great impact in the world economy. According to FAO, Food and Agriculture Organizations, the share of agriculture in global GDP is 4%. Agriculture employs over 1 billion people, or about 30% of the global workforce. The production of primary crops sorry, the vast majority, yeah? The production of primary crops is about 9.2 billion tons, and cereals are the most traded commodity by quantity. Americas and Europe are the largest exporters, while Asia is the largest importer. In 2021, global wheat production was 770.5 million tons. Geopolitical instability and increasing impacts of conflicts, including competition over resources and energy, are a major driver of food insecurity and malnutrition. The vast majority of chronically food insecure and malnourished people live in countries affected by conflicts. Conflicts reduce food availability, disrupt access to food and health care, and undermine social protection systems, and the majority of food insecure people in many parts of the world are the result of these conflicts. The agriculture sectors are exposed to supply limitations due to rising input costs, in particular for fertilizers and fuels, that could spur further food price rises. As a consequence, farmers may reduce input applications or switch to crops that are less input intensive, which would not only lower productivity but also have negative effects in exports of key foodstuffs to the international markets. This also applies to major exporting countries. For instance, some North American farmers are shifting from maize to soy, which requires less nitrogen fertilizer. Developing countries as a whole are reducing imports of cereals, oilseeds, and meat, which reflects their incapacity to cover the increase in price. In the context of actual situation of agriculture, the vision of FAO, at least up to 2030, is based in the principle of 4 betters: better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life, which demonstrates and reflects the interconnected economic, social, and environmental dimensions of agri-food systems, while encouraging a strategic and system-oriented approach. To talk about the hunger in the world today, when science, technology, and human knowledge in general, and for cultivation and production of plants in particular, know no limits, seems as ironic as it is absurd. But unfortunately, it's true. Hunger and food insufficiency are not a new phenomenon. They do not belong only to present time, but have their roots in the beginning of human society. Based on historical data, some of greatest human disasters caused by famine are the first famines recorded in ancient Rome in year 441 before Christ. Between 400 and 800 years AD, various famines in Western Europe associated with the fall of Western Roman Empire. During years 800 to 1000 AD, severe drought killed millions of Maya peoples. due to famine and thirst, and initiated a cascade of internal collapses that destroyed their civilizations. And now we go to Maya country only to see the former pyramids, but without people anymore. During the years 845 to 850 happened the Great Famine in Ireland, or Great Potato Famine. As a result, about 1 million people died, and 1.5 million other people have been emigrated in biblical proportions in the United States, in Canada, in Australia. Such dramas have left deep traces in people's lives everywhere. But I have separated only one case. This is what happened to the Irish who documented the drama of the years 1845 to 1850 in 100 songs, one of which, called The Fields of Athenry, has become most popular like an anthem for the Irish. The song is about a young man from the Athenry area who had been caught stealing corn to feed his family during the Irish famine years and was deported to Australia. Interesting is the fact that over the years, the song has been adopted by many Irish sporting teams. The Fields of Athenry can be heard regularly at sporting events across the country. At the end, I will show you only one fragment from this song, only 1 minute, to see how many popular this is. According to a report from United Nations food agencies, the number of people affected by hunger in the world continues to be high. World hunger is on the rise. Globally, about 8.9% of population, or 690 million people, go to bed on an empty stomach each night. If hunger continues to grow at the current rates, it will exceed 840 million by 2030. Another concern of today is that many vulnerable countries are paying more but receiving food less because of prices. According to United Nations Food Outlook report, the global food import bill is projected to rise in 2022 in comparison with 2021 by $51 billion, of which $49 billion reflects higher prices. Least developed countries, Sub-Saharan Africa and group of net food importing developing countries, are both expected to register an increase in total cost despite a reduction in imported volumes. In view of the soaring input prices, concerns about the weather, and increased market uncertainties stemming from the war in Ukraine, FAO has proposed a food import financing facility to provide balance of payment support to the low-income countries most reliant on food imports as a strategy to safeguard their food security. According to my opinion, this is a good proposal. Although it does not solve the problem, at least it makes it easier for poor countries to breathe. But the question is, will it be implemented, this mechanism? Will the strongest and the richest countries like USA, EU, and other countries which dominate the decision-making of international financial institutions accept it? In this context, the EU policy framework for assisting developing countries in addressing food security challenges has a special importance. Recent developments and future challenges require an improved common food security policy, further strengthening EU leadership in the global food security agenda, and improving the effectiveness of EU assistance. Moreover, key issues in the current food security agenda, such as nutrition, price volatility, social protection and safety net, food safety, large-scale land acquisition, and the right to food concept need integration into an overall policy framework. Some conclusions and suggestions. In order not to allow the current world crisis to deepen further and take on irreparable proportions for the world economy in general and in particular for the agriculture production, food security and the reduction until the disappearance of the MAP hunger in the world, I think that it is a necessity of the time that we adapt the new economic, strategic and geostrategic factors. Somebody may ask, who are you that think for this global question? Yes, okay, everybody has the right to think about this. But I give myself the right because for more than 20 years I have been a scientific cooperator and consultant of FAO. For 4 years I have been governor of Albania to IFAD, International Fund for Agriculture Development. For many other years, I have been cooperator, and as minister, I have collaborated with World Bank, with IMF, with WTO, World Trade Organizations, with World Food Program, and too many others. And I believe that I know how they are functioning, how they are organized, and know their structures. And according to my opinion, the international organizations acting very slowly, have a big bureaucratic system. And sometimes some of their organizations that are under umbrella of UN overlapping with each other in role, in structure, in organizations. So, in this context, I think that as urgent need to reconsider the structure and the role of international organizations, such as those operating within the framework of the United Nations, international financial institutions, commercial institutions or organizations, the legal system, and all other organizations that have an impact in this process. In this framework, it is necessary to review the policies and structure of agriculture production and food security, to review price policies, especially for agriculture inputs, to review the export policies, the review of global humanitarian policies, as well as the review of food reserves, what we are learning from the war in Ukraine, and especially for primary crops, for wheat, for rice, for sugar beet, and others. Here you can see in this map the most poor countries, especially in Africa, in South Asia, and some countries in Latin America, which suffering for hunger. And now to conclude, let me to represent only a fragment, 1 minute, from the song I mentioned to you, The Fields of Athenry, which is like one Oh, sorry.
Let's hear it now. So lonely round the field. One more last time, let's hear it now. The fields of Albanian where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing. We had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely around the fields of Albanian.
That's all. Thank you. Thank you very much.